Hello and welcome to another episode of Launch Legends. Today we're joined by Xenia of Planable. Planable, a SaaS company right now, has 700 plus customers and they're growing every single month. Xenia talks about how in the beginning they got a bunch of customers but they really struggled to scale after that. That really demotivated them. But they persisted and eventually launched an AppSumo that gave them the very much needed cash injection and customer feedback. And the company just took off from there. So there's a ton of value Xenia provides in this interview. But before, if you're listening to this on a podcast, please rate and review. If you're watching this on YouTube, please subscribe, rate, and leave a review. Thank you. Hey, Xenia, thank you very much for being on the show. Really appreciate it. So, great profile, Forbes 30, under 30, and you're building a great business. Planable, you've got over 700 customers. So I would love to know who you are and why you started Planable.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on the show. So I started Planable about 4 years ago. And before that, I had a social media marketing agency. I was in love with the advertising industry since I was a teenager, I think. I was always dreaming of working in the ad world, maybe own my own agency, my own shop at some point in time. And that actually happened during my second year of university. I started my first business, my first venture. I was building social media content plans for brands locally and regionally. And that's when I learned a lot about the challenges that social media managers struggle with when they build content, when they have to collaborate with other colleagues and other stakeholders and companies. I realized how messy and how chaotic the entire process of just aligning a team around the content plan is nowadays. It was all happening in Excels and PowerPoints and email, and I felt that it was just not the best way to work on moving and graphic and visual content. It was really, really hard to gather feedback and centralize it. And I felt like me and my team and our clients were, wasting more time on just the nitty gritty and the tedious, the boring, rather than what we were supposed to do, just creative a strategy. And that's how, Planable got started. My two other co-founders, they have worked in the industry as well. They, saw their colleagues or have experienced the problem themselves. So, we got together and decided that this needs to stop. We need to find a solution and marketers deserve to work a little bit better. I can tell you very quickly what Planable does for everyone that's not familiar with the company. We're a collaboration platform for social media teams, and we make it super easy for teams to prototype content so that they can actually visualize how their posts are going to look like in the end before publishing them. Collaborate with their team in a very easy to use interface. So they can easily get from an idea throughout review, feedback, collaboration, planning to publishing in the end. That's
Who's the ideal customer? Who's the ideal customer?
Our customers are two ideal profiles. Agencies who by default have a need for collaboration because they have to approve and discuss content plans with their clients before moving forward with them. And on the other side, it's brand larger teams, so a larger headcount of social media managers or marketers that are involved in social and they need to discuss collaboration. They don't sit at the same table. Probably. So it's, they need a tool to do that, or they work from home nowadays. So they need somewhere to discuss those posts.
So Xenia, let's talk about your early days when you first started product development. Did you develop the product, launch it, and then work with the customers, or you started in the beginning where you had customers lined up, not like customers, users lined up where you were talking to them and building the product at the same time? What was the process like?
Yeah. Not necessarily, no. I think we built the product with this huge hope in ourselves and intuition that this is going to work. It's crazy a bit now that, I'm looking backwards and realizing how risky that was. But we did it. We did it with this faith in the product that we had. I think it also helped that, we were from the industry and we kind of knew how other agencies, other, marketers are working. It was risky because we didn't have experience how others from other countries from across the world were working, if that's, a legit problem for them themselves. But then we launched the product, the first version, and we had a few customer development interviews. So we only had like a few prototypes, just a few sketches that we were showing to people. We were building the product in parallel, but at the same time, showing a sneak peek.
So, Xenia, when you were showing the sketches to customers, what was the feedback you were getting?
Yeah, the feedback was pretty good. People are very, I don't know how to say it. They're kind to people who are starting companies. So encouraging, of course. But at the same time, I felt like people were empathizing with the problem. I felt like, this is actually, that's correct. This is a problem indeed in the space. So that encouraged us to keep moving.
The reason I asked the question was because I experienced something very similar before, where we showed the sketches to our early customers, potential customers, and they loved it. They loved the idea. They gave us feedback. And when we launched the product,
they never bought.
They would not use it because they were just too happy with whatever they were using at the same time at that particular time. So even though we gave them something that would replace a ton of different applications and spreadsheets, they were just not willing to switch over. So there was a massive switching cost, which we didn't really anticipate.
Yeah,
they loved the idea, but they were too lazy to use it.
Good, very good point. So there's this book called The Mom Test that teaches you about customer development and how you're supposed to ask questions like, okay, are you experiencing this problem? Okay, good, great. Have you tried to solve it on your own? So that actually tells you, if people are really, struggling, or if the problem is really painful for them. Have you, tested anything out there? Are you willing to pay for it? And get some kind of like little commitment from them. Would you be willing to test it with this specific client or with this specific pilot, so that you make them commit? And it's called the mom test because if you go to your mom and tell her an idea, she's going to love it every single time. And you need to get people to commit to something if you want to get raw, honest feedback from them.
So let me ask you this. Even after doing all of that, do you get real feedback on sketches based versus a real product?
Yeah, that's a good point. I think with sketches and prototypes, you just gauge the interest, and you need to show people something. And it's really at a very early stage where you need to realize how they're working, what are they using at the moment, are they struggling with the problem, what's the concerns that they're going through. So it's the first phase of the discovery. With the product, it's more like feedback on your product, actually. The other one is more finding about them.
Great. So when you launched the product, what happened? Let's talk about your launch, the first MVP launch, the first version.
So the first version, we launched it during a startup competition, actually, right before the startup competition. And we launched it on platforms such as Beta Page and Beta Lists, forums like this for beta products. And we got a few subscribers. We got a few hundred, I would say a couple, 300 to 500 users that were, testing the product in the span of a couple of months. So that was, a sign that, this looks like something people might actually need. We might have, all those months of work might actually pay off. That was the first thing that we did, but it was not scalable. So it seemed like we exhausted the entire user base that was potentially interested in our product from Beta Page and Beta Lists and other similar websites. And the next step that we did was launch on Product Hunt, but that happened a few months after the initial launch.
Let's go back. When you had those 300-400 people who signed up, how many of those people actually ended up using the product? Just for an idea, because I know a lot of people sign up, but very few people use the product. It doesn't matter how good the product is.
Yeah.
So what was
So back then, we were probably not that good at analytics and funnels and all of those things that we're doing for Planable. But I know that at least 2 or 3 actually end up paying when we introduced monetization for the product. I would say that a very small percent actually stuck with us out of those that tested us initially. But I know that 1 or 2 of them actually ended up being lifelong, customers of ours, which is not a bad outcome, I would say.
Great. So what did the product look like from the point you launched the first version till the point you launched on Product Hunt after all that customer feedback and usage?
Yeah, so we added more features. We integrated with more platforms. I think initially we just launched with Facebook. It was very broad, a product. You just had the option of like connecting the Facebook page, creating posts, and just commenting on those posts, like leaving feedback on them, leaving notes. And then between that moment in time and then the launch on Product Hunt, we added more networks. We added Twitter and Instagram and LinkedIn, and we really improved the collaboration process. We made it a bit more sophisticated, the comment section, the approval system as well. I don't remember if we already had the calendar with the Product Hunt launch or if we added it afterwards. I think we did. I think we introduced a module where we could actually plan posts in a calendar view, not just in a feed view. So we really improved the platform quite a lot. But we already had those features in mind, even when we launched on beta pages and beta lists. We already knew that this is something we need to have. I think the user feedback was good because it was validating what we had in mind, what our intuition, what our gut was saying to us.
Great. So how did the Product Hunt launch go?
That was pretty good. So we launched, you have to have like a hunter, the posts you on Product Hunt. And we had the CEO of Marvel app, which is a collaboration platform for designers. And that was great. Just, match made in heaven. And he launched us, Murat. Yes, that was his name. He launched us on Product Hunt. And we ended up being 3rd product of the day. And we got, I think, about 1,200 upvotes. We got a few paying customers, 5 to 10 paying customers, something like that. So it was pretty good. It was probably a bit better than we expected. On the other hand, we didn't get like press or media mentions, nothing fancy. We didn't get on TechCrunch and stuff like that some other startups get when they launch on product.
How many signups did you get?
I don't remember. I remember paying customers. So I remember we had about 5 to 10 paying customers.
Would you recommend someone who's listening to this to launch on Product Hunt?
100%. 100%. I mean, if there is a fit, for us, there is no like 100% fit with Product Hunt because it's for developers, people that really are into products. They do not necessarily have like a super, super strong marketing community, but we still launched and we got, pretty good results. So if there's, if your audience is there at least partially, I mean, it's a free network. Why not? At least, people will notice you and they might recommend it to someone else that might be a better fit. So definitely worth it.
Great. So you've gone from few paying customers to over 700 now. What worked for you? What happened?
So between Product Hunt and our next step, we actually had quite a bad period of time for ourselves as founders. We were not scaling at all. We couldn't figure out what to do next. And it was a bit, it was a bit demotivational for us because we spent quite a lot of time building the product and lots of hope and lots of energy poured into it. And we were not managing to grow our revenue. So we were willing to try anything at that point. And what we tried next was launching on AppSumo. For folks that are not familiar with AppSumo, it's a platform of lifetime deals. where, as a product maker, you put your product there. You give, people an option to buy it with a one-time fee, and you give, a limited version of your product. So we put our product there. We put Planable and AppSumo. People were paying $40 to $50 for a lifetime fee to get like one of our limited plans, probably the smallest one. And we were not expecting anything. We didn't have high expectations. When was that? I think that was 2018. Yes.
2018. So. And how did you approach them? Did they approach you, or you had to go up to them and say, look?
I don't remember. I honestly don't remember. I think they approached us and we were like, yeah, hell yes, we're going to try it. We don't have anything to lose at this point.
I know for some people that really kickstarted their company and really grew the revenue. That was the starting point for them. But for some people, it just didn't work at all. Well, it didn't work. It did work, but it worked in a negative way where the company got such bad press and feedback that it just didn't go anywhere. So how did you prepare for the AppSumo launch to make sure that nothing broke down? I'm sure something you did, but I'm sure you prepared for
that's a good question. So we didn't prepare that much because we didn't know that it's going to be that big. We had, as I mentioned, no expectations whatsoever. We read a few articles about people that launch products, and we were like, articles, people made 200,000 with AppSumo. And I was like, no, there's something shady about this. It doesn't make any sense. So I didn't take it seriously. I felt like it's, how can you make 200K in a couple of weeks? I mean, and that was the number that they made, but, you give quite a big chunk to AppSumo. So they made less, but still, so we didn't really prepare. I think, we prepared, like we put a few servers up just to make sure that it doesn't crash or anything like that. But we didn't expect it to be as big as it was. So we spent, the first couple of nights we were, we had like shifts of customer support between myself and the founders, and the app crashed. I have to be honest, it did crash at some point, but just like for a couple of minutes, and we put it, back up, and the volume, the traffic was just insane, just an insane amount of traffic. It was really, the comments and the support was just so hard to maintain because it was just so many comments.
How many customers and codes did you get in the end? How many codes did you sell, and how many customers did you get in the end?
So we didn't do it. We didn't allow people to buy multiple codes. We didn't allow stacking. So people could only buy one code. So one code, one customer. And we got about 3,500, I would say, customers. Yeah.
And what was the total revenue?
I think we got about 50K from that. And that was 30%. So 200 and something.
Wow.
Yeah.
Fairly big launch.
Yeah, fairly big launch. But, AppSumo takes 70%. They were taking back then 70% when we launched. So we got, the rest 30%, and that was about 50K.
Right.
But
I think more than the funding that you got, it was the kind of customers you got, right?
Yes.
How did that impact your business?
So that is 100% correct. So besides this being a very good cash injection and almost an angel level ticket size, you also get people that passionately write about you on social media, and they spread the word, and they write articles about you, and they recommend you. Some of them ended up being recurring subscription customers. They needed to upgrade to something, and they, stayed with us, and they built our MRR. And some others, just the entire buzz that, was created around us brought us, new customers outside of AppSumo that were paying, a monthly subscription, which was, that point, that was, the moment that propelled us, and we never stopped growing exponentially since then. Before that, like the beta and the product hunts, that was about a year, I would say, where we were, trying to put it on its feet. And then we launched with AppSumo. We also hired our first marketing person, our current head of marketing, and she's amazing. So that definitely helped a lot. Mm-hmm. So those two things correlated and, together, I think is what helped us, really, really.
I think that's a great lesson there where you took a long time to get to AppSumo launch where you had a cash injection, but like you said, you had a rough time figuring out what you guys do to scale, but you didn't give up. You kept doing it. And you eventually paid off, right? So what other growth channel has worked since AppSumo? Are you doing any content marketing, any paid or anything like that?
Yeah, so we've been growing for the past 2 years almost entirely based on content marketing. We recently started, I think in the past 2 quarters, we really started ramping up our paid efforts as well, mostly Google search, to be honest. But in terms of the growth, it has been fueled just by content marketing and social and, everything that we've been building in terms of thought leadership.
Great. Xenia, one last question. So if someone's watching this and thinking, okay, I'm starting my business and they're right in the early stages and they're looking at you and they're thinking, okay, Xenia's done it and she's persisted and she's really taken off that. What advice would you give them?
What advice?
Yeah.
That's a good one. I think...
Put it this way, if you were starting out again, what would you do differently?
I would move faster. I think with AppSumo, for example, we could have launched earlier than that. We could have, launched potentially 6 months earlier than that. Mm-hmm. So I think don't be afraid would be the advice. Just don't be afraid of... There is no brand reputation to lose there because you don't have it at that point yet. There is nothing. There's very little you can lose. So just don't be afraid and just, break things. Don't be afraid to break things. I think that would be like my advice.
Great. Xenia, thank you very much. Thank you for being on the show. And I wish you good luck for the future. And I hope I see you again. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. That was great. Thank you.